The Portland Trail Blazers return to practice on Thursday, searching for answers after getting smoked by the Golden State Warriors in Wednesday's opener, 139 to 104. Is that right? Wait. Yep, 139, 104.
That's right.
That's right. Also, Scoot Henderson isn't starting. What does that mean for the franchise? And the Pelicans are up next for 2 this weekend. Welcome to the Blazer Focus Podcast. I am Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian and OregonLive. And I'm joined by Craig Birnbach, who watched this game at home while I watched it in horror in person. And before we get to our rundown here, I want to tell you something. I don't know, did you watch the pregame show? The pregame introduction stuff? Was that on TV?
Yep, the rain.
Did you hear Bruce Lee talking about be like water? Did you hear that?
I did.
Now, I wonder if go ahead.
Didn't know it was Bruce Lee.
Well, Bruce Lee has this passage where he talks about being like water and how water penetrates everything, right? And it was I couldn't tell if they actually used the actual Bruce Lee voice or an AI voice, but whatever. It was supposed to be Bruce Lee. And I'm watching this thinking, do these people know they're going to be 25 and 57? Because I don't think Bruce Lee would ever be 25 and 57 in anything, let alone you're trying to present this vision of toughness and how badass they're going to be, and they're not. And they know it. And then they went out and they showed it, getting completely blasted. So I lived through the horror in person. I'm going to let you go first and tell me what you saw at home.
So first of all, the beginning, that was pretty good. It was cool.
18-9. Oh, you mean the intro stuff?
Yeah, the intro.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
It was cool.
Rip City runs deep.
But it didn't fit.
No, right. And I think you're being optimistic maybe about 25 wins. I'm not sure they're going to get to 25 wins. And I mean, look, the people talking about like the first quarter was good. No, both teams were terrible in the first quarter. I mean, Steph Curry couldn't hit a shot. It was a bad first quarter for both teams, but it was equally bad for both. And then it was disaster. It was awful. It was awful. And they said it. So we're not sitting here saying it's awful and piling on. Every player knew it was awful. You can't lose by 35 on opening night on your home court, especially after being virtually tied after one. And it wasn't just that they couldn't shoot, which, by the way, they couldn't shoot. No. It wasn't just that they couldn't play defense. And by the way, they could not play defense. It was they were making terrible mental mistakes, not getting back on defense, completely losing guys for layups, dunks, and threes. And on offense, it was just a mess. It looked like what a first exhibition game should look like, not opening night. You could forgive that if that was the preseason, but it was ugly. And I watched the whole thing because I wanted to see how it ended. And we're going to talk about Scoot. But here's the thing. When your leading scorer was possibly the worst player on the court that day, that's a problem. He didn't play well, and he had 22.
9 in the fourth when it was pretty much over. Everything you just said is spot on. It was awful. They look like a tanking version of the team, not the team they should look like, which we expect them to lose, but you shouldn't lose like that. And that's one of the goals coming into the season. They want to play an entertaining brand of basketball. They want to improve on defense. They don't want to get pasted by 20, 30, 40 points. If they lose, they want it to be, a tough game where they fought and made the other team work for it in a deep Western Conference. And this was the exact opposite of that. Now, what tripped me out, dude, was a talk about jitters, opening game jitters. Oh. Phillips talked about it. Aiden talked about it. Denny talked about it. Donovan mentioned a little bit today at practice. Ant talked about it. I'm like, wait, what? You had jitters to the point at home where you lost by 35 a few days after winning by nearly 40 against a not as good team in Utah. But still, it's not like Golden State is a contender. They're probably going to be a play-in team. Jitters? I mean, Grant's 30. Ant's been in the league 7 years. Denny's been in the league 5 years. Aiden's been in the league 6 or 7. Or he came with Ant, so 7 years. Like, that's your starting line. Tumani maybe had jitters. First big time start like that. Well, no, he started last 49 games last year, but I'll give him the break. But the other guys have been around. Like I didn't understand that at all. So they talked about poor communication, not talking, not doing the things they did against Utah. Fine. Okay. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I have no choice. There's 81 games to go. But that was just, to me, it was completely inexcusable.
Yeah. And I think that you're asking people to excuse something that was inexcusable, and they were searching too.
Right.
They also said like fatigue. Like it's game one, dude. Like, and
they had 4 days off from the preseason game where people played 20 minutes.
Only like nobody played more than 33 minutes. So you couldn't, like, you're professional basketball players. You're in the greatest shape in the world.
Yeah.
You didn't get exhausted in 33 minutes. Like, you were bad. And now, and Steph Curry wasn't good. He was 4 for 10 and he played 25 minutes. Like, the best player by far didn't play well. I mean, you got chewed up by a good, I think they might be better than playing, but you're right. They're not, 58 win Golden State anymore.
Right.
And they got chewed up by guys that are not, the big three anymore.
Right.
Draymond didn't, he did his thing. He only had to play 20 minutes. He didn't miss a shot. He had 6 because he only took 3. But I mean, like, he had 8 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Like, you didn't get chewed up by these great players. You got chewed up by, pretty good. And
Moody.
Yeah, it was just bad.
Buddy Hield was a journeyman shooter. But if you're the Blazers, but if you're the Blazers, you wish you had a guy like that coming off the bench, but you don't. Again, so okay. You
gotta just say it's game one and hope that it somehow gets better, but it's the worst way. The only thing that I thought that could have been worse is if someone got injured, so no one got hurt. Right. So there's that.
And again, we know they're not going to win many games, but style points matter even in losses. So let's talk about the offense first. They know that shooting's an issue. Chauncey has talked about that. That's why they want to go with the big lineup to generate better defense. Use the defense to generate offense in transition. Get out and run. You have size and length. You got versatility with Denny and Grant. But the lack of shooting just was horrible. They were 8 for 34. At one point, they were 5 for 25. Meanwhile, Dame's going 6 for 12 from 3-point range for the Bucks. By the way, they shot 23.5%, 39% from the field. Meanwhile, like you talked about what Golden State was doing to them, it's summed up best in the fact they had 38 assists and 48 field goals. So only 10 field goals they scored were not assisted. Whereas the Blazers had 15 unassisted, but they also had 17 turnovers that led to 22 points for the Warriors. Now, the best 2 shooters, and especially with Sharp out, are Ant and Grant. They struggled from 3-point range, but you had no one else step up in that area, and you needed someone to be able to lift the offense in some capacity, and no one could in any way imaginable. No one inside, no one posting up, no one slashing, no one shooting. Not one positive element of offense was demonstrated as far as I was concerned in this game.
Nobody who took more than 4 shots shot 50% from the field. You had a few guys go 1 for 2 in garbage minutes. Rupert went 3 for 4. And a couple, but the entire starting lineup couldn't shoot 50%. And that includes your center, who was 5 for 12.
Right.
You just 17 turnovers, that's not even what killed him. I mean, Golden State turned it over 17. What killed him is you can't shoot 39% from the field, like from 2. Like you just can't and win basketball games. And the shots were really off. A lot of them were like, oh boy. And if you're going to have your guys shoot threes that are, big men, they got to, be, they can't miss by 40 feet, like it just was bad. They didn't rebound, when they had chances to rebound. But but the defense was more of a problem to me than bad shooting nights can happen. They're not good shooters, right? So I didn't have a problem with that. I had problems with the fact that you're like, you're not getting back on D after you miss. Like, you're just not. You're giving up easy layups or wide open threes, because in the league now, you're just as likely, a fast break's just as likely to lead to a person not taking the layup to give it up to the guy who's wide open for three. I mean, that's how this league is. And it happened a ridiculous amount of times.
Yep.
And that to me was the issue, because that's effort in game one. In game one, but
they had jitters and they were tired.
That's where I can't give it. Like, I know you're being sarcastic, but that's where I'd love to say jitters is not effort. Effort is when you run into the guy when he's shooting the three, because you're running so hard at him that you can't stop. And that's like, but this team cannot have an effort problem. If it has an effort problem, they're going to win 15 games. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to win playing, not playing as hard as the team you're playing, because you're not talented. So, but the problems that
Chauncey said exactly that. Like, we have to play hard to give ourselves a chance.
Yeah, because you're not good. Like, you don't have good players. Like, that's not. You purposely have gotten a team that's not very good. They're young. If at best they're young, right? That's at best they're young and getting better. We don't know if they're going to be, any of these players are going to be good at this point, right? Either you're at the place where you're Grant and you're going down. You're Ayton and you might be going down, or maybe you're getting better, but we don't know. But the effort, that's the first time where I said, okay, I know what's going to happen right now on social media. So, they're going to absolutely kill Billups. You're going to see it.
And did they? I didn't look. Did they?
Oh, of course. Of course. And it's going to be the first time where you're going to be like, well, like, they didn't play. Shooting, take it off the table. Defensively, they were terrible, and the effort wasn't there. And those are two things that you can put blame on coaching staffs. So, again, one game, and the one thing that we've both been riding the whole time is that his team hadn't quit, and they always seemed to have effort. And when he had a healthy team, most of the time, they were at least competitive for a majority of the game, right? Even if they lost. And game one, they did not.
Yeah, game one looked a lot like last season, and that's unfortunate. Defensively, I still have hope for the defense, especially if they get Williams back. And my hope for the offense is that Sharp comes back, because Sharp gives you another guy who can go out and get a bucket no matter what. But as far as coaching goes, it's like you said, it's early to really harp on that for me. But part of the challenge for him this season is to make the team look like it has a direction on offense and defense. And that did not happen in game one, right? Game one was like, oh, okay, so yeah, this is just beyond bad, because you shouldn't, no matter how bad you are, you shouldn't be losing by 30 something ever, unless it's just a hot night, cold night situation. But this was an effort issue as well. So let me ask you this though. One thing I asked Chauncey today, did anyone step up as a leader on this team and sort of take the reins? And he said, there were a few voices, we still don't really have that person. And that's a problem. Like, that person should be Ant or Grant, ideally Ayton, but maybe Denny needs to take over that position, because you got to have someone who's a beacon, man. You got to have someone who's in everybody about their effort and on them, that they respect. And that's one of the things, besides being the best player maybe in franchise history you lost in Dame, is that Dame would not be tolerating what happened. He'd be on people and they'd respect him, and they don't have anybody like that. And so if Chauncey can't be the sole person who can control this team, and he needs some help then, and he doesn't have anyone to lean on, then they're going to be in big trouble if they can't collectively come together.
Yeah, and you talk about Dame, but like CJ was a leader too.
Yeah, yeah.
And Wesley Matthews, when he was on the team, was a leader. This team, their two best players are known as quiet dudes. In Grant and Simons. That's the thing that they've always been guys that, well, they lead with their game, not with their mouth. But no, you're absolutely right. Simon should be, he's the point guard. He's the best player on the team. He should be elevating and saying, let's go. But let's be honest, he was part of the problem last night. Like, what was he going to say? He shot 5 for 12. He shot 2 for 7, and his defense was not good, right? So,
and he had 5 turnovers.
So, like, it's not the thing with Dame is the track record was he could have 12 turnovers in that game and could say whatever the heck he wanted. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's also that.
Yeah, but
right?
but someone could say I played poorly, but we have to do. Absolutely, we can make it. But just to have one person who's like going to galvanize the crew and bring everyone together, and to not have that, especially when you're so fledgling, is not a good situation.
Ayton did the most talking after the game of honest talk, which he does, but he's not been. That's not his. He hasn't been a leader before. He got traded from the Suns because the leaders didn't mesh with him. You know what I mean? Right. All the time. They were frustrated with him. Denny, he's still so young and he was on bad teams. Like, does he have more leadership than others? Maybe, but I don't think there's any doubt that that's a frustration for Billups because he said it before. I mean, he lit the fire last year saying we don't have a number one.
Right.
And certainly they don't have a number one now. And here's the other thing. Shaedon, also a quiet dude, right? So will he, if he becomes the best player? Scoot has shown leadership signs every once in a while, but he's not, he's too young and he's not even starting. So there's no doubt that this team has a problem but when it comes to leadership. But it also, if you're Grant, do you have 1 foot out the door? Yes. Like, anyone can say what they want. The guy knows he's not the future here. Like, so that doesn't mean he couldn't step up, but he hasn't done that before. The Simons is the worry because it feels like they made a decision. When you don't start Scoot, you're saying something about Simons. So you're saying, hey, your team, go ball. And he'll play better. He's right. Not, and hopefully he will, with that play, show some leadership, because you're right. It can't all come from the coach. It never works that way on championship teams. And this team's not a championship team, but I mean, even on teams that are up and coming. I mean, Dame, he took it like day one. LaMarcus was there and Dame was the leader like in his rookie year. You know what I mean? Like, it was pretty quick.
Speaking of Scoot and not starting, you and I texted about this.
Yeah.
So real quick, when Sharp went out, it seemed logical to me they just roll with Scoot and Ant as your starting backcourt, which is how they began last year, because again, you're trying to develop, you don't care about winning, et cetera, et cetera. But Scoot just was not that good during training camp, and they decided that it was best for them to roll with the best lineup possible because they still want to be competitive, and that having Tumani out there, especially with Shaedon out, gives them some defense, gives them some versatility in some other areas, and you're basically saying that Ant is our best lead guard, so we're going to put the team in his hands, which is what I thought they should have done last year. Anyway, so on one hand, you're giving Ant what he deserves. On another hand, though, this is a guy you took number 3 overall. This is a guy that you refused to move unless it was just a slam dunk deal in order to get people to help Dame. And you made it sound like he was untouchable almost because of how good he was. It was going to take a massive, haul. And now you couldn't trade him for what could you get for him right now? If you tried to trade him, maybe a first round pick from someone who believes in him, not a high pick. You could definitely get a first round. You could get a first round. Someone will take
a future.
Yeah, no, maybe. Now, no one's given up on him. They still believe he has potential, et cetera, et cetera. But, dude, he has not grown as a shooter at all.
Nope.
At all. He was last night 7 for 18, but at one point he was 4 for 15. He scored over 9 points in the fourth, that were meaningless points. He over 5 on threes, only 2 turnovers, but 4 assists, 4 rebounds, whatever. He didn't do any, even in the Utah game, 2 for 13, I think, from the field, 1 of 6 on threes. I can't remember exactly. He just has not demonstrated any growth, man. And I'm shocked. I thought he'd show some improvement because he did show a little bit in the last 6 weeks last year. I mean, he did, but it was, low leverage situations. But yeah, I asked someone, are you guys worried about the optics? And they said, not really, because he's still young and we're not giving up on him. We just think this is our best lineup right now. And that's fine. That's fine. But to me, the problem with the optics is not that you're not starting him, because he can still get minutes. It's that you're not starting him because he isn't good.
Right.
And that's what's scary about it. Because if they bust on that pick, dude, if he's not Derrick Rose and Westbrook, that sets you back. That sets you back a great deal. And here's another thing. Did you see the times he drove the lane and couldn't finish?
Can't finish.
Dude, Rose and Westbrook finished either acrobatically, off the backboard, or they're dunking on fools. This guy had 2 opportunities to drive down the lane and go Morant and just dunk on somebody, and he couldn't finish. Where's the explosion we were told he had? Where's the up and down speed? Remember training camp last year? That guy's fast as bleep. Remember that from Robert Williams, I think it was? Famous talk coming out of training camp last year. Where is it? Where's him getting the ball and being a blur up and down the court like Rose, Morant, and Westbrook, those type of point guards, or De'Aaron Fox? It's not existent, and he can't shoot. So the whole thing right now is and he can't play defense very well, is what I keep being told as well. He's struggling with defense. So I like the kid. I wish him the best. I'm not trying to be a dog on him, but that was a huge pick for this franchise for a lot of different reasons. And it's right now not looking good at all.
Yeah, I mean, last year he was one of the worst, if not the worst player at the rim. Like this, the data is bad for him finishing. And there's a couple things. His shot looks fine. That's what's weird. There's certain guys that shoot and you're like, ooh, that's ugly. That's never going to go in.
You think it looks fine, though?
I mean, it's not hideous. The result is
not Lonzo Ball, Lonzo Ball.
Right. I'm just like some weird stuff that, Mikal Bridges stuff is all over. Like, how can you make him like that? It just doesn't look atrocious, where you're like, oh, he's going to have to fix it. I wish that it did and that he'd fix the form. Like, no one's saying like, oh, his form is hideous. Like, oh my God, he just can't shoot right now, Here's the thing. If this was last year and this was happening, you're like, oh, it makes sense. You play behind Ant, you come in and get your minutes. But they started him last year. And, and then benched him, then started him again. And now you're benching him after a whole offseason for a second-round pick who's not that good. And then the argument is...
Okay, they love him, though. What I was told... Well, hold on a second. What I was told is that during training camp, at least, he beat out Sharp and Scoot because of his defense.
Good. That's good for one thing, and it's really bad for the others.
Exactly.
It's not good that he did. Clearly he did, because he's starting over Scoot. The frustration that I get is when the argument is, well, they don't want to play 2 small guards. They're done with that. Well, then why'd you draft Scoot? Trade out of it and get something else. Like you drafted
because they believed he was too. Okay, let's say Scoot, right, is showing Rose. I'm using those comps. Not great shooters, but their athleticism is ridiculous, right? Speed up and down, they're just wreaking havoc. Let's say he were Rose or Westbrook. Then you move Dame for assets, and then you would trade Ant for sure. Right. They're afraid to trade Ant because Scoot is not showing any traces right now of being a franchise point guard. That's the thing. So when you say, why didn't they do blah, 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 it's because they thought Scoot was going to be special, and he isn't yet. Therefore, that's why Ant's still around. Because I think if Scoot looked like, oh, this is our dude, this is an all-star caliber guy, I think Ant would probably be gone.
Agree. I thought that's what was going to happen. Right. That's what I was going to end up with. So there's no good optic here.
No.
Like you can't explain it away where it's okay.
Right. All you can do is chase another pick, which is what they're doing.
or hope that there is another level that hasn't clicked on him yet.
Yeah, I mean, that could happen. I mean, Chauncey Billups, right? He struggled his first 5 years in the league, so there's precedent. But
yeah,
it's
bad. There is, but it's not a lot. But but I'm just saying, like, it's just not good. Like the fact that they're not starting him means he got beat out, no doubt. And they do not like what they see, and they think that if he starts, it's going to be bad for him, his career, because he'll get killed, not just on the court, but there's the optics of bust, and that's not where you want to be right now after a full offseason and hearing this improvement part. He did not improve enough to start over a second-round draft pick that they could love till the cows come home. But Kamara has shown us nothing in plenty of time to say he's an all-star caliber player. You know what I mean? Like, they've shown that he's a really good defensive player, a real pain in the tuchus, but he's still not a
hey, man, he had 11 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. He does a lot. But no, you're right. You're right.
I'm just saying, like, he played 30 minutes. He was 3 for 8. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, he's not. He's on the
court for defense. He's on the court for defense.
Yes. Okay. And they should be very happy that they held out to get him in a trade. Right. Because right now you got very few things that you're looking at and saying, yeah, So I was just disappointed because I want Scoot to be good. Because I know how important it is for this franchise to get to be competitive. If he's not really, really, really good, that's a huge problem. Like, that's a step back in a big way. So it's disappointing that they didn't start him, because there is no way to look at it and say, oh, but that's okay. You're like, no, it's bad. And you hope it can change because it can. But yeah, he led the team with points at 22, and he led the team in a game they lost by 35. He led the team. He was last in plus minus at minus 30. So, like, there you go, right? That's how I always say every team scores 100 even when they lose by 35. So somebody's got to get 20. You good?
Hold on a sec.
Wait, you're going to have to edit because that's a long pause.
I lost you for a sec. Hold on.
Oh,
there you are. Okay, sorry.
My lights went off. All right, so you're going to have to edit.
That's all right. All right, real quick. Donovan. So we talked to Donovan today. He wasn't happy with his performance. He's never really lost a game like that before. He went from 14 and 20 with, in 24 minutes against the Utah Jazz to 2 and 2 in 12 minutes against the Warriors. Look, I like his potential as a defensive guy, rebounding guy. There's a lot of work to be done for me to believe he's a legit starting center on a winning team. Not a good performance for him because he looked lost. Which, he's a rookie. He's like, 2 years at UConn, et cetera, et cetera. But just like with Scoot, you look for something physically titillating in someone. Like they just look like they can do stuff. They can play, right?
He is huge.
Footwork. He is huge, but he looked slow out there against the Warriors. They ran him ragged. He just didn't fit. That's one reason why, he didn't play all that much. And that's my concern with him is that, against good teams like that who can move around and do, like, they're just going to take him out of it defensively, and then he's not giving you anything on the offensive end. What were your impressions of him?
That first block was great. It was awesome. It was like, oh, great. Look at that. They tried to challenge him and bam, he blocked it perfectly. Like, it was beautiful. It was an NBA block. And then, on the other end, he got a wide open, when I thought he should have dunked it, he laid it in. I was like, dunk it. And then it was over. And then all the good was over, right? And look, I don't know how a guy when you're a center on a bad defensive team, a lot of things make it. A lot of times it looks like it's your fault because you're the last guy, and it's not. But he's not getting help out there, and I have no idea what I saw in the first game, and I also didn't expect this guy to be even good his rookie year. I thought he'd have some time and some moments where he's playing, but it's like, what did you expect from him? He's not a playmaker, and if everyone else is just all over the map, he's not going to get his own shot. So, and defensively, it's the first time playing the Warriors. They might not be the Warriors of old, but they do move the ball around. They are well coached. So his head was probably spinning. I mean, he was playing against Steph Curry. That's got to be, I give him a complete wash. I give Denny a little bit of a break just because he's new to the team, new to the, first time playing in front of the home crowd, but he knew he didn't play well. He knew he was all over the map. So, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Klingon. I don't even know if you ask me what a good year for him would mean. I don't even know what that is, because statistically for big guys, those things don't often matter. And 3 years is what matters in 3 years, we'll be able to evaluate Klingon, right? Because big men often take longer. So,
right.
I like the block. I'll lead with that.
Okay, but Scoot, Klingon, Shaden.
Yeah, it's not good.
You got to get stuff. You got to see stuff.
Yeah.
That's all. We were told they had a higher grade on him. They had a top 3 grade on him. Right?
Clarity, baby.
I'm just saying, Dalton Connect's lighting it up for the Lakers. He's dropping threes.
Passing too, making some nice passes too.
Modest Buzelis for the Bulls had a nice preseason. I mean, I just don't want to see a bunch of guys after 7, ripping it up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know why they hurt themselves when they say silly things. Just be happy I got Klingon. You don't have to tell us Chris Murray was a lottery pick in your minds. Because now Fentress is just going to kill you on it. He's just going to kill you on it. Don't tell us Klingon you had a top 2 grade on him, because you got him 7th, and the Klingon pick, everybody and their mother was like, "Oh, that's where I would have. That's where you should have picked him at 7." Right. But now because you had to go and say that you had a much higher grade on him, and we all know that you attached an adjective to Scoot that Aaron Fentress will never let you live down, and
transcendent.
I mean, it's just going to kill him forever, right? I mean, Scoot right now is not transcendent. Klingon has played 1 game, but nobody's sitting there saying this guy's going to rip the league up. And Murray's barely
never
in the NBA.
Never going to be a starter. Yeah. No, he's not barely in the NBA. He improved a lot in the preseason over last year. I'll give him that. What did he do in this game?
And I don't want to kill Chris Murray, but he played 10 minutes on a team that lost by 35. I mean, that's just facts. So, and he went 0 for 2.
And we're missing 3 other rotation pieces, right?
I'm just saying, you could say and hey, look, they gave him the extension. Good for him. And I hope he plays. And I hope he ends up being really good. But you shouldn't have said you had a lottery grade on the guy, because that just makes you look bad. He's not 21 either. You don't have time for him to just, oh, he's still young. No, you drafted an older guy. You drafted him in the 20s. You said that he was a lottery type pick, and now you play him 10 minutes in a game you lost 35. So you don't think that anymore. And I hope he can shoot. I hope he can do things. Everyone says he's got a high basketball IQ. He seems like a super likable guy. His twin brother's is a lottery pick, and he plays like one. So you hope. But when you're evaluating yourself, and at this point, that's what we have to do. We have to evaluate the front office. And
facts.
When you set yourself up for that, just say we're happy we got him. Don't hype it before it happens. It's always better to, old
undersell,
saying, right?
Undersell,
over deliver. Don't oversell and under deliver. And that's what this front office has done right now, and they kind of know it. I mean, they can't be. I just sit there like and watching the game, like it's just uncomfortable to not know where this franchise is going on day one. You're like, where are we going with this?
Okay, Pelicans, Friday night, Sunday at 3 p.m. Can they get a win?
Well,
Zion may or may not play. He was sick. Is he coming back tomorrow? We don't know yet.
Yeah,
right?
He might not play, and Murray broke his hand.
Oh, DeJounte Murray. Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, this team's. But if
they got Brandon Ingram, they got Herb Jones, they got McCollum, of course. So they still got dudes.
Yeah. Great. I think every time CJ comes in there, he wants to drop 50. And if they play like they played game one, they'll lose by 25. If Murray doesn't, without Murray, and if Zion plays, they got no one could guard that guy. I mean, that guy could go for 45 if they need him to. And but look, just play better, play harder, and be entertaining.
Don't give up over 120, let alone over 130.
I mean, it wasn't fun. There was nothing to be interested in. And Scoot playing at the end, it was more disappointing than it was good, right? So that's the thing that Sharp gives you. You said titillating, a word I would never use, but you said it. Feels like it's got to be censored. Like when he's on the court, you're like, anything can happen.
Oh, you're right. Wait, there's more definition. It's stimulate and excite. No, it's stimulate and excite.
No, it's not bad.
It doesn't have to be in a sexual way.
It feels like it's in every title of a Cinemax movie back in the day. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I can't wait. Look, I've heard positive things about Shaden getting better.
These journalists are paid to titillate the public is a sentence. That's the example. So
there you go. You like it. I'm prude, but Shaden, you're hearing good things about Shaden.
Shaden spoke to us on Tuesday and said he feels like he's on schedule. The latest for him to return would be, home Atlanta, I think, on the 17th. And the earliest would be at New Orleans on the 4th. So,
yeah, I hope I'm proven wrong and that he actually comes back in that window.
You still don't think he will?
I just know shoulder injuries are tricky, right? You separate your shoulder and you got an injury like that, strengthen it. But the fact that he's already, it was interesting last night during the broadcast. Brooke gave the update and said he was on the court, but he was just running. He wasn't doing any shooting or anything like that.
He said he's been shooting in practice, but they didn't have him passing. Which means they don't want him to extend that shoulder, right? Because of the labral tear.
So when they say he's running, I'm like, well, he didn't hurt his legs.
Yeah, exactly.
He should be running.
And he can shoot because he's a right-handed shooter. It was his left shoulder.
Oh, that's right. So they
they don't want him passing though, which means they don't want him extending that shoulder yet. So we'll see.
Shoulders are tricky, so I'm hoping that he's good and he'll be back in that window, and we won't be like, oh, another win a week. This team with Robert Williams and Sharp can dunk. That's something.
Yeah.
We didn't get any. Was there even a dunk by the Blazers?
I'm sure there were a couple.
We're by the Warriors.
All right. Okay, that's it for the Blazer Focus podcast. Next week, I'm going to go to the first 2 road games. I'm going to go to Sacramento and go to the Clippers. So when I get back, maybe next Friday, we'll get together again, do another podcast, and sort of, let's just hope that's 4 games between now and then. Or actually, no, we can we can't do one because I'm traveling Monday. That's 4 games. Let's hope they win. What do you think? 1? Just 1, right? 1's realistic? 2's asking a lot. But don't you remember last year they started out 0-3 and then they won 3 in a row? Remember that?
Yep.
See, things happen. It's the NBA. All right, that's it for this episode, and we'll be back next week. Late.